There are some Bollywood movies which are so high on style and swagger that they seem to have forgotten about a very important thing called the script. Perhaps this is what happened with Saaho starring Indian superstar Prabhas and Bollywood heartthrob Shraddha Kapoor. If you're a fan of action sequences like car chases and trucks being exploded, this is testosterone charged. So, perhaps if you love these adrenaline charged action thrillers, then you might actually root for Saaho. But for others, it's as painful as a tooth extraction. In fact, I prefer sitting in a dentist chair than to suffer through 3 hours of Saaho. I think it felt like 3 years of my life. Saaho is a heist film which is set in a fictional city called Waji City that seems to have players who seem to be having a perennially bad dress day. They all seem to be like in some bizarre costume party because all their swanky blazers, chains, it just feels hammy, and it's so tiring to watch veteran actors like Jackie Shroff, Mahesh Manjrekar, Malayalam star Lal all ham it up. I mean, this is one of the films where they're given such poorly written lines, and if things are going really bad, they insert a very bad song as well. I mean, there are lyrics like, "You're a bad boy, so I'll be your bad girl," and with women gyrating around him. It is just an assault on your senses. And if you look at it, I was trying very hard to find something redeeming about Saaho. I am a Prabhas fan. I mean, Bahubali was one of my favorite films. Perhaps what worked was it was set in an era where big shoulders, being slightly sexist, being mythological worked. But this Saaho is set in the modern times. And then you have an actor like Prabhas have all this swagger. He walks in slow motion. There are cars exploding behind him, bullets being sprayed, but he escapes unscathed. And that's one of the downfalls. It's not a very believable film at all. In fact, if you ask me what the story is, I can tell you there was a black box which I'm told that everybody wants a part of it, a share of it, and then there's a group of gangsters who are vying for the throne. They want to rule the fiefdom, they want to be a crime lord. So I don't know why they seem to be fighting for this black box. I still have no answers really. And then there is Prabhas. I have to say that Prabhas does have the swagger to pull it off. Like, there are parts which you truly enjoy when he's walking in slow motion. But how much can you take it? I mean, in 3 hours, at some point you were like, is there more to the film than this? Cars exploding, trucks exploding, etc. As far as the movie goes, it's very cheesy. Saaho is one of the cheesiest movies I've seen. And to know that at least dirham 170 million was spent, it almost feels like a crime to spend so much money on a film which has a lot of car sequences, but there's no story whatsoever. In fact, there's no coherent storyline at all. Towards the climax, there is a section where there are villains that are stereotyped heavily. In fact, if you see men with dreadlocks, men who are colored, men who are from Russia or from Eastern Europe, then there's a good chance that they are villains of the piece. This kind of ethnic stereotyping is hugely problematic, and to see Saaho, a movie which had Kenny Bates, the Hollywood action director, actually pander to the stereotype along with director Sujit is very problematic. And to see actors, bankable actors like Prabhas endorse such stereotyping is hugely problematic. Another thing that I thought was the romantic angle between two undercover agents. There are many portions in this film where I'm sure that in this modern day age, it will be counted as harassment if the men make such moves about why is she so pretty and but why is she a cop. I mean, these are lines that will not fly with anybody, and I could see many women in the theatre shifting very uncomfortably at such lines. I mean, if you can spend 170 million on a project, then why not have a team of perhaps editors or perhaps cultural experts just telling you that there are some things that are just wrong, and stop peddling those stereotypes. In terms of acting, I have to say that Prabhas does have the style and swagger, Shraddha Kapoor does a bit, but all the villains are uniformly bad. There's not a single villain which really stuck with me. Perhaps it was Mandira Bedi as Kalki, as a legal advisor to this syndicate of crime lords, that made a bit of sense. But even her character seems terribly underdeveloped. There's no focus on characters or on depth of character. There's so much focus on style that the maker seems to have forgotten about adding some substance and some soul into the film. I walked out of the movie exhausted. The first screening in the world was in Dubai, and we were supposed to watch the Hindi version of it, but due to some technical errors, we were shown the Telugu version. Perhaps some of the charm was lost in translation, I will admit, because I was hooked on to the subtitles. But having said that, a movie, irrespective of the language, if it appeals to you, it appeals to you. But if it exhausts you, you feel so cheated. I think there are times when Prabhas is trying to be this modern day superhero. He's swooping from buildings, and then, there are sequences which make no sense. In fact, there's a shirtless scene where he jumps off a mountain and then decides to open his parachute way down. Like, there's at least 5 minutes of us watching him glide down. It's so inconsequential, you wonder, why did they waste 5 minutes of our life? Why was so much money spent on a movie without any soul? After 2 hours, the movie is almost over. Then there are these bunch of villains that come out of nowhere. And you're like, there's another half an hour of this, and you have to sit through it. So it at least takes you 3 hours for them to reach a conclusion. From the climax, it's evident that they plan to make a series out of it, which is not good news for the fans. Unless you're a Prabhas fan and you like car chases and some good DOP, like some great photography, you are unlikely to enjoy this movie. I've gone with a very generous 2 out of 5. I was thinking of 1.5, but I added another 0.5 for the Prabhas fans. That's for you. But for others, steer clear from Saaho.